All right. Do you guys know what these three things have in common? Decks of cards, coasters, and trash.
It's all stuff you've got a gang of in your house.
No, they're all things that I collect. Yeah.
All right.
We'll get into it. We'll get into why I would even collect trash, but yeah, they're all collectibles.
Is collecting worth it? Let's talk about it.
Welcome to Net with Lizzy and Lissa, where we analyze hidden costs and empower you to make your own damn decisions in life. Each episode covers a different facet of life, and at the end of each episode, we each give our takes on whether we think something is net positive or net negative.
I'm Lizzy, a strategist and consultant with over 17 years in finance and investing.
And I'm Lissa, a personal finance expert and accredited financial counselor. We're best friends who talk about money
and everything else.
Now, today we also have a very special guest joining us.
Let's go.
He is our longtime friend, our basketball teammate. He was my roommate for about 10 years. He is a creative at heart. He has a passion for collecting things. Help us welcome Alex Brackett.
Ooh, welcome to the pod.
Hi, everyone.
Wait, am
Thanks
I
for
allowed?
having me.
Do I have to call you Alex?
No,
Or
you don't have to call
All
me.
right, we call him Magic. It's
You
like a
could call me-
nickname.
Yeah, don't switch it up. Don't switch it
All
up.
right, don't switch it up and be fake.
Yeah.
So, is collecting stuff worth it?
First up, running the numbers on collectibles.
According to Statista, 42% of millennials and only 20% of Gen Z collect physical objects as a hobby or as an investment.
So they just gave
Yeah,
up on that?
they just
Maybe
gave
it's
up.
physical objects. Maybe they collect digital stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting into the psychology, psychoanalysts have identified 5 main motivations for collecting: for selfish purposes, for selfless purposes, as preservation, restoration, history, or a sense of continuity, as a financial investment, or as a form of addiction.
That sounds, yeah, that runs the gamut of
all
all
those.
the
Cross all
possible
those.
reasons. So estimates of the size of the collectibles market range from $75 billion to $450 billion. That's a huge range. And that likely varies because it depends on what people consider collectibles.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can collect anything.
Yeah, trash is not worth anything, so that's,
Yep.
that's
Yeah,
not a
yeah, yeah.
collectible.
Worthless. Okay, and then the top 10 most popular collectors' items are antique furniture, vinyl records, comic books, coins and currency, classic cars, trading cards, dolls and toys, stamps, wine, and fine art or jewelry.
Well, we know there's more to life than numbers and statistics, so let's talk about it. Let's jump into it. Is collecting stuff worth it?
So first of all, let's talk about the costs
Yeah.
of collecting, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the key costs that come to mind?
Well, the money you got to spend.
Yeah. I mean, you got to buy whatever. I mean, like Lisa said, not everything costs money. Like you say, you collect trash.
Yeah.
You can find things and collect it, like found objects. Like people collect driftwood and stuff like
For
that
sure.
and turn
Oh,
it
yeah.
into art.
Seashells, I collect
Yeah,
Right.
seashells.
So then space where you keep
yes.
the stuff.
Space.
Yeah, because sometimes collecting can be free, but you got to have
That's
space.
the number one downside for me is space.
So what do you
The
collect?
the things I collect a lot of like fashion items, like sneakers over the years for like 20 years, and vintage T-shirts I collect now for the past like 5-6 years, and that takes a lot of space. Like boxes of shoes, I keep the boxes.
Yep.
That's historically been a very big issue with like anyone I'm living with.
Oh,
or, like,
yeah.
my
Yeah,
parents.
me.
Costs.
It's very, very troubling to figure out how to store that stuff. And if you live in LA, you don't have a big apartment most
I
likely.
mean, so we used to live together for 10 years, and I remember like the hallway would be lined up with boxes. So like you could still use the hallway and walk through it, but you had to like sidestep your way.
All right, I didn't know about this. Okay, I didn't know this was
Air
big.
it
but
out.
But it is an issue. Yeah,
I'm
like
just kidding.
like space is definitely
Yeah.
like the biggest downside of collecting like physical things that take a lot of physical space. Like t-shirts, you stack them up. I have like hundreds of shirts now in my room, and I have to like stack them up and figure out how I'm gonna like Tetris them in my room.
And these are
That's the
vintage
biggest
t-shirts.
Yeah. And how you gotta fold them, you gotta like figure out where you're gonna store them. And it's just like, yeah, it's a big headache.
So how did you get started collecting? Or what was your first collection that you remember?
I mean, for some reason, I don't know what it is, like if it's hereditary or something, like something in my brain, I've always been a collector since I was a kid. So I've collected like toys, trading cards. I've always had some sort of collection of where I kind of got obsessed with it. And I like, just like, I'm going to get everything in this thing. And like, it was like Ninja Turtles at first, like baseball cards in the 90s, like a lot of kids, Pokemon cards, and then like eventually sneakers when I got older and I could save money. But yeah, I don't know why. I think it's just, I got kind of obsessed and my mind was like, oh, I need to have this thing and every version of it. And like anything I can get my hands on that revolves around this thing, So yeah, I don't know where that came from, if there was like a moment like triggered me when I was a kid. But yeah, I could tell you kind of like why I collected stuff later.
Yeah.
And how I kind of like rationalize it. But from a young age, I don't know where that came from, but yeah, just always collected stuff.
So what is the experience like now that you're an adult? Like what is the thought process behind it? What are some of those justifications?
So I kind of look at it like two reasons why I do things. So, and they kind of feed into each other a little bit. So first one is it fun? Like, is there a community around it? Do I have an interest in it? Is it like deep and I can like, there's like a lore behind it and like, and things like that. Is it interesting? Is it fun? And then the second thing is, does it appreciate in value? So I kind of rationalize it in that way. Like, can I make money on it? If I don't want it any longer, can I resell it? And they feed into each other where like the community will, if there's a big enough community, there's a big enough market for me to resell. And the more things are valuable, the more the community is going to grow because people are gonna be like, sneakers is a good example because that was a really small community when I got into it in the late 90s. And now it's massive and it's like oversaturated and it kind of killed the interest for me. That's why I moved away from sneaker collecting into like shirt collecting. So those are the two things I look at. Like, is it fun? And can I like, is there a monetary value? So
interestingly, so on a personal, for you personally, you go into it also as an investment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've always told my dad would always be like, what are you doing all these sneakers in your room? Like, and I'm like, Dad, those are my investments. Yeah. He was like, what? No, these are worthless. I'm like, no, I can resell them. I can make money on them. And so I've always I rationalize it that it's an investment.
Yeah.
So do you resell though? Because some people use that justification
and then they don't like to part ways.
Ever, and they never would.
Yeah.
So a story I'll tell you real quick is yes. Short answer is yes. and sometimes not. No, but I had accumulated like hundreds of sneakers at my dad's house, and he would always make an excuse of like why he can't leave the house to like go travel. He's like, no, if I leave your house, like someone's gonna break in, and the only thing worth money is your sneakers, and I can't leave them. Yeah. And I'm like, that is the worst excuse ever. So I was like, I'm gonna sell all the sneakers that are at my dad's house, and so over a summer, I think I sold like 200 pairs of sneakers.
Dang.
And I calculated like I made a good profit on them. So
okay.
And then they also, like things like sneakers, they deteriorate, so you can't hold them forever, or they become worthless. So you gotta you gotta time the market.
Yeah, my Yeezys turned yellow.
Yeah, they yellow, they crumble.
I don't know what to do.
But I was just like, let me get rid of these, and it forced me to resell because I was like, I'll resell them in 20 more years. I'll just keep holding them. But that doesn't really make sense. So you gotta you're forced to sell things. If you look at the market, are they gonna deteriorate physically? Yeah. You gotta resell them. You can't.
Sure.
Or but that's only certain things. Like I know like.
Do you collect anything that is not an investment? That's just for fun?
Yeah, that's a good question. Nothing I can think of top
not
of
like
mind,
modern day. Not right now.
No, nothing that I could think of top of mind. Like art, maybe. Like all of my
books?
art.
Coffee table books?
Yeah, books. Yeah, I guess books. Yeah, I have a lot of books, a lot of art books.
Like art books.
Yeah.
What about you, Lise?
What do I collect?
Yeah, what do you collect?
What did I say at the beginning? So coasters and decks of cards became a new thing in the last year or two, and that's based on where Alan and I travel. Alan's my fiance, and so every time we travel, so this is actually interesting. My mom has a really cool collection of Starbucks mugs. She doesn't travel a lot around the globe, but me and all my siblings do. So anytime we go somewhere, we'll go get her a Starbucks mug. So she has an entire collection. So when I used to travel, I would get her Starbucks mugs wherever I went, as well as magnets for the fridge. And she's never gonna sell these. It's just it's a collection. But then I realized that I don't have my own collections of things when I travel, right? Like currency, I'll keep like a bill or a coin wherever I travel. But with Alan, when we started going on trips together, I think we bought like a deck of cards at some crafts fair, one place that we went. I can't even remember where it was, where we started. So then after that, I was like, let's get coasters so that when we have a house together, we can have not like a set of coasters, but coasters from all over the world.
Yeah.
And then decks of cards we can either play with or just have because they're kind of cool. So those are two things I currently collect. And then trash.
Yeah.
Trash, you gotta
about the
explain this.
Okay, trash is... All right, so how do I explain this? Let me explain this. So I have this idea. Don't anyone steal it. I'll share it with you guys. So rewind. I used to have all these CDs. For you youngins out there, CDs are these round things. I don't even know how to explain them. You put them on another thing, and then music plays. Is that how you explain
Records?
it? No, not records. Anyway, so I had all these old CDs, and then, I don't know, years ago, I decided to cut up all the CD covers and make an art piece out of it. So I made this really big piece of a bunch of my favorite albums, album covers, and inserts, because they used to have artwork in the inserts too, and lyrics and things like that. So that's what you would find when you walk into my house, is this big piece of art. And so after that, I was like, I like this. I actually made another piece of art out of candy wrappers. So I would like buy bags of Starburst, and then whoever were my roommates, I'd just put them out and be like, put your trash here, like don't throw away the wrappers. So then I made that. It ended up breaking and cracking one time that I moved. So then after that, I've been collecting candy wrappers for the last like 5 years. So I have a bunch that I'm gonna make art out of.
And
oh yeah, these I'm gonna make a art out of too. All these cards that we use, these net cards.
every time we record, I gotta give them back.
And so the collection is gonna be called One Man's Trash. Like I already have the domain name. I was like gonna make a Shopify store, but I gotta make the art first.
Yeah.
And what I wanna do is create these art pieces, sell them maybe at auction, and like something that should be worth nothing because it's trash maybe can sell for like $10,000 or something.
Yeah.
Donate half of it to like, beach cleanup,
Right,
and then take the rest of the profit for myself. Something like that. That's the idea.
No one steal this idea.
Yeah,
Don't
don't
steal it. Don't do it.
You can't, because One Man's Trash dot
This is on
XYZ
film.
Your
is already
trash is
taken.
gonna be different.
Time stamped.
Timestamps. Anyway, those are my collections.
That'd be cool. Like a
I-
gallery of all your pieces. You do
Yeah,
a show
if I could
somewhere?
do a gallery or a
Yeah.
show.
There's definitely a gallery.
I just
that
gotta
will let
actually
you
get to doing it, because now
Yeah.
I literally have bins of trash at home. And then I have all these old collections
do I.
I had from back in the day: Pogs, marbles,
Yeah.
Nintendo games. I
That's
still
true.
hold on to those. I have all my baseball and basketball cards, NFL cards from like the 90s. But are cards worth anything anymore?
Yeah,
I don't even know.
like I definitely had things that depreciated in value.
Yeah.
And then like cards, for example,
Yeah.
in the 90s, like baseball cards, they got oversaturated and then they became worthless. But now they're back in value.
Yeah.
Like Pokemon cards I had when I was like a
Crazy,
youngster.
right?
Now they're like skyrocketed
Yeah, and then they go
up.
down in value, and you're like, I'm gonna throw this away.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
And they're like, why did I throw those away?
Yeah.
I gave them away.
Oh, Funko Pops. You have some too. I collect those ish.
I do not have them.
Oh,
They
you
were a collection with my ex that we
Oh.
built together, and I
All right, never mind.
forfeited.
Never mind.
Yeah.
But we had an extensive collection.
Yeah. But did you ever track what Funko Pops were worth? Because you can do that in the app, in the Funko app.
It's never, like, I'm the complete opposite of Alex, I'd say. It has never really been about that for me, with the exception of when I was a kid. I didn't really participate in a lot of those things, partially because you had to have money to do that.
Yeah.
True.
So like I didn't have disposable income as a child. We were really poor. So but I do remember distinctly when Beanie Babies came out. convincing my stepdad that I needed them because they were an investment and they were going to be worth so much money one day. That is probably the only collection I've ever had that really wasn't about that, but it
Yeah.
was my justification.
Where did those Beanie Babies go? What happened to them?
Oh, God knows.
Gone?
I probably have one. There was one like Lizzy, the lizard, that
Oh,
I probably have
yeah.
somewhere still, but yeah.
That's
Well, what
dope.
is that right next to you?
This is my perfume collection. I started collecting perfume maybe like 8 or 10 years ago, traveling. So this is like the very first one I bought on a trip in Colombia. And so I get a local perfume pretty much every country or sometimes city that I go to. And I try to get something that you can't get elsewhere. And it just brings me back, like the scent memories are really
Yeah.
strong. And the only problem is that you don't want to use them too much. So it's
Yeah.
like, becomes extra special, which actually
Yeah.
leads me to a question. What do you think about using the items in your collection? Do
Yeah.
you use them,
Is
or
this-
are they
Well-
just for display?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, like, there's like that whole, I'm a like 40-year-old virgin where he's
Yeah.
like, don't open the box. Don't open the box. It's going to go down in value.
Yeah.
Like for sneakers, it was that way. Like if you wore the sneakers, it like lost half its value.
Right, right.
So you know, you pick and choose, or you like buy two
Sure.
if you have it like that. But for vintage t-shirts, like what I'm into now, you wear them. Like sometimes the more worn in they are, the more valuable they are. Like if it has a cool wear pattern, the more faded and more holes and distressing,
Interesting.
it could be worth more than a brand new version of that shirt. So yeah, I definitely wear all of my stuff now, and I got over collecting sneakers, so I just wear all of them now.
Yeah.
Because they're going to deteriorate. I just,
Right. Might
I'm
as
just going
well
to wear them. Yeah.
get your use out of it.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, do I use my trash? No. I guess not really, because I don't collect anything like that that's
Like
usable right
Your
now.
cards and your coasters?
Yeah.
Well, the cards, do you open
Oh,
them?
yeah. We're eventually, the cards are not opened yet, but I'd be willing to use them. The coasters we will use when we move into a new house.
Okay.
So yeah, in that
You're
sense,
just building the collection
building
first.
the collection, because these are personal collections that mean something to us, that have they're not investment value at
Yeah.
all. It's just we'll end up using them.
It makes me think, all the examples we gave, there's something about collecting that's pinpointing a place in time and in history, right? Like a memory from a trip, an experience, harking back to when a shirt came out or a pair of shoes came out,
Nostalgia.
and that like desire to collect that experience or feeling or whatever it may be.
You know, something I just remembered I used to collect. This, I don't know if this means I stole things, but
Oh, girl.
you know when you go to like a restaurant like Denny's or something, and they give you a number to put on your table?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
you
had
used
a
to
bunch
take
of those in
those?
like high school.
Yeah, that's called stealing. Yeah. You stole
Technically,
those.
yes.
Can I get arrested for that?
I don't
No.
think
I think the
They don't
statute
care.
of
They're not gonna
limitations is
care.
probably run out.
I mean, it's
but-
like almost, that's like a level above stealing napkins
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
but
It's
so
like
I
slightly-
mean, yeah, I guess that still has a relation to a time and a place, right? It makes me
Yeah.
remember my last Grand Slam.
Grand Slam, Moons over
Commemorate it.
Miami.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think are some of the other motivations? Like we talked about psychologically, but like what has inspired you? You gave some examples, or why do you think people get started with a collection?
I think what I said, I was gonna say Alex, what Magic mentioned about like there's community around some collections. That's why I've held on to all my 90s collections, like my Pogs and marbles, because it's this thing now, like you'll see memes, but only millennials will know. Like
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
one will know after
Pogs,
that, like
especially.
what Pogs are and why we would even pay so much for little cardboard
Yeah.
cutouts.
Slammers.
The slammers.
Yeah, so
Slammer
it is.
collection.
There's
I had a
a
slammer collection.
yeah, the community of it, I think, plays a big role. Like you feel part of, you feel like you belong
Yeah.
with a community. You guys understand the
There's-
same things.
Like there's events for things like that. Like there's vintage t-shirt events that I go to here in LA, or I've traveled to Miami to go to one. And it's a sense of feeling part of a community, and like, oh, you collect this specific type of thing. Like you're a specialist in that area, so I want to go talk to you about it. And you feel like welcome and appreciated in that type of environment. So
Oh yeah, you well, I don't know if they still do this, but I remember you invited me to some like Instagram live auctions that
Oh,
you
yeah.
used to do with other collectors,
That's
and they
what
were
got me into it.
fun.
Yeah, that's what got me
I
into
bought a
vintage
couple shirts
t-shirts.
from these auctions of
Yeah.
like Tiny Toons.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Again, only millennials will know, but like
Yeah.
Tiny Toons t-shirts and stuff that I paid like $200 for a t-shirt and stuff like that. But it was fun because everybody in the chat is like nice and like supportive, like everyone's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a shared experience.
So for you, do you consider collecting or these specific collections a hobby? Or is it just something that you do? Because for me, I collect kind of accidentally. It's not something I put a lot of time and energy into for whatever reason. But for you, it sounds like it's different.
Yeah, yeah. So that's another kind of downside. Like I mentioned space. The other one would be time. And it's definitely a hobby for me. I have fun doing it, but it can take up my time
Sure.
and it can be an annoyance to people around me. Like if I'm on the internet looking for something, like I'm searching for something very specific and I keep searching for it like every day, that time, you can't get that back. So is it worth it for you? Is it affecting the people around you? That could be a drain. But yeah, it's definitely a hobby. It definitely takes a good bit of my time. Anytime I have downtime, I'm searching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever like bought or ordered something for your collection that ended up being a fake or something?
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. Yes.
How does
I
that
have
feel
so many
like? Because
stories
that feels
about
like an
that.
emotional cost.
It's,
Oh, yeah.
that is an
Yeah.
emotional cost, definitely. And then you have to learn your lessons and not get too invested in it being what you think it's going to be. Like, for example, bought plenty of fake sneakers over the years, like taking all my lunch money and all my, allowance money and buying a $200 pair of sneakers and they turn out to be fake.
Damn.
That is heartbreaking.
They're Mikey's, not Nikes.
Yeah.
Or at least remember you bought the Space Jams and they got stolen?
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
those were supposed to be supposedly real. Like
Yeah,
I ordered off
theoretically.
eBay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, when you lose something like that,
Yeah.
and that's just painful too. So, the emotional investment is definitely a big part of it. But I've, you learn how to vet things better and like who to trust and like
Right.
how to find the right safety nets and like, oh, if it turns out to be fake, will eBay protect me?
For sure.
And things like that. So you learn how to vet and protect yourself against that, but that pain is never, because you get so excited for something to come in the mail, and if
Yeah.
it's not what you want it to be. For example, shirts, there are fake shirts, but there are also dry rot shirts. So like black t-shirts deteriorate over time. And if you buy a 30-year-old black t-shirt, it could rip like a piece of tissue paper. And so that is heartbreaking.
Like a legit paper thin T-shirt.
Right. So that hurts. But you got to learn how to like protect your feelings and separate yourself
Yeah.
from that and like be like, it's not the end of the world.
What about
Emotional
the
cost.
stress of you have these valuables, like you said your dad didn't want to leave home because you stored sneakers there, but like what about for you? You have certain things where you live. Do you ever get scared of like getting stolen from?
That's a good question. I mean, that does cross my mind once in a while, or like a natural disaster like wipes your house out or something, floods your house. I do think about that occasionally, but I'm like, you know what? The fun of doing it will outweigh the loss,
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
monetary loss. I think
Yeah.
over time, like I think it'd be heartbreaking, but it was fun doing it. So if I lost everything or they all go down to zero value, did I have fun doing it?
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
more
kind of
about
like
the
how,
experience and
Yeah.
the process than
Right.
the
That's a good-
actual
that's a
item.
good
because things
positive
go up and down,
approach.
they fluctuate, or you could lose them,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I always think about that, but I always go, it's going to be, it would have been worth it. It was worth my time doing it because I enjoyed doing it as a hobby.
Yeah.
Well, that's another interesting element about some types of collections is that many of these things are like irreplaceable or there's a very limited quantity in the world, which obviously increases the value, that scarcity. But yeah, should your collection, get destroyed, we've talked about having insurance or like there might be some
Yeah.
way to recoup the value, but
But it's
you
not
can't
the
necessarily
same.
recoup the items,
Right.
which
Right.
is what's crazy.
Yeah, because
Like
I
a
was looking
classic
into
car.
like how do you like do collectibles fall into your personal property insurance? Like let's say you have renters insurance or homeowners insurance, but I guess depending on what it is and what the value looks like, you have to get additional riders, which are like
Yep.
additional. I don't know, how do you just describe a rider? Like additional
Like a
coverage on your insurance policies if you want to cover certain things. So some people don't end up doing it because like for that same reason is, yeah, I could get the money back, but it wasn't about the money completely.
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah, I feel
It's
like you'll
it's
typically
never,
see it with jewelry, with,
with
art,
jewelry,
like
yeah.
fine art. You'll start to see some of those policies,
but less so
cars,
like,
classic
yeah,
cars.
Yeah,
but less
classic
so
cars
these
for
very
sure.
like rare nostalgic things that you couldn't replace. You couldn't actually replace what it means, like the value of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One feeling we haven't talked about that I guess could be a cost, but it's certainly a benefit is like the thrill of the hunt.
Yes.
So growing up, my best friend's mom was an insane collector. Like their house was covered in antiques. And then this was like early eBay.
Yeah.
And she would collect these charms that came in Cracker Jack boxes in
Oh,
like the
nice.
50s and 60s. They were tiny. And she had
Nice.
tens of thousands,
that's
hundreds of
exciting.
thousands of them. And she'd be on eBay all day, like, you know, selling and wheeling and dealing. But we used to go to flea markets. We used to go, you know, like all over with her, searching for like the holy grail charm.
Yeah.
What has your experience been with that thrill?
Me?
Yeah.
That is the most exciting part of it. Like
Yeah.
I don't, you know, the monetary part of it, that's cool if you find something for cheap and you can flip it. But for just go out and find it in the wild, especially, or, you know, use like eBay, like you
Yeah.
said, and things like that. That's really fun. But like I'm in a neighborhood I'm not used to being in. I'm gonna go to Goodwill right after this and like go
Yeah.
find something, go try to find something. So that's the biggest part of it is the thrill of going and discovering it and trying to dig it up and find it, finding something cool that is exciting. It's like,
How often would you say you, or what percentage of the time would you find something worthwhile?
low,
Yeah,
very low.
low.
That's what makes it exciting. Like
Right.
I'll probably go to the thrift store and find something that's cool, like 1 out of 10
Okay.
times. So that's what makes it exciting though. Cause you're like,
Sure.
when you get that one time, it's like all those other times are worth it for this one moment.
That's,
It's like Indiana Jones, like archaeology, like
Yeah,
you're digging
yeah.
up something that's really cool. Maybe it's valuable. It's
So
like
this
magic.
made me think of kind of like the darker side. So that feels fun. That feels like a legit healthy thrill of the hunt. You know why you're doing it. Maybe it's because you're an adult now. It just made me think that kids are kind of primed early to collect. I mean, we were as millennials, but they still do that. There's all these like mystery boxes and toys they have
Oh,
nowadays
God,
that
don't get me
have like
started.
collect the, you know, it's a 1 out of 5 or a 1 out of 120. And so like literally like I'll buy these little question mark
Yep.
box toy thingies for my nieces and nephews, and like they'll open it, and if I already have that one, throw it away. What?
Right.
Consumer
Throw it
culture,
away.
they don't want
waste
the
culture, wasteful.
they don't
Yeah.
want the actual item. They
Yeah.
just want the feeling,
The feeling,
Yeah.
which
and,
is wild.
And then you gotta buy how many of those mystery boxes to find the thing. But that's kind of equivalent to us with trading cards back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that's where the addiction part comes
Yeah.
from. So like there's a lot of like you said, IG lives or like whatnot or whatever. They like they'll buy a place and then they'll open it for them. And so it's like a form of gambling. It's like, I don't know what I'm gonna get, but if I do get something amazing, that rush, that adrenaline rush and that endorphin rush
Yeah.
comes in. It's an addictive feeling. And I think a lot of collecting is there some sort of addiction.
So how do you
like,
find that balance? Like, how do you? I don't know.
is it healthy? I mean, I don't know. Like for
I
me,
think if it's fun and
Yeah.
like for you, and it doesn't
If it
affect
doesn't-
the rest of your life,
yeah.
like your finances.
if it doesn't
and
affect your
stuff like
finances
that.
overall and you can pay all your bills comfortably,
yeah, and you enjoy
then
it.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
Space, like I mentioned, like things like that that
Sure,
are
there's
like,
practical
are you hurting
considerations.
someone else
Yeah.
around you? Then yeah, do whatever your heart desires.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Anyway.
Coming back to the costs, obviously we've talked about there's items you can collect that are free. There's, you know, $1 million paintings. There's like a huge wide range, which speaks to the variations in the size of the market. For each of us, like what do you think is the most you've put into a collection financially, if you're comfortable sharing?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
I'd probably say like my sneaker collection over 20 years of collecting, probably north of like $70,000-$80,000.
Sure.
Like hundreds of pairs of shoes
In cost or in value?
in cost, and
Okay.
how much it actually
Yeah.
cost me retail or resell
Sure.
to buy those things. And I've definitely calculated like my resale. I've made more
Sure.
But I don't know how that goes with inflation
Yeah.
and all these other
Yeah,
things.
Yeah.
So
But
I
if
don't know.
you're a rough dollar figure of making is more that you've
Yeah.
made more of it than you've spent, you're probably
Yeah,
net
net positive.
positive on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Lise?
Geez, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I did have a lot of phases where I was also into sneakers and would spend like on J's that you don't get them on the first drop, so you you pay double or triple just to buy them off eBay or someone else. So I've had that a lot. I think I've also one that I checked my Funko Pop app. Funko Pops are these little toys with the big heads. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, they're cute.
Pop culture.
Yeah,
little
but
toys.
again, like they make so many of them now. It's like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I used to the very first Funko Pop that I ever got was like 10 years ago. My sister got into them before I knew what they were. She gave me a Tupac Shakur. So I had it for the longest time, didn't know what Funkos were, and then maybe like 5 years later I started buying my own or like getting them as gifts. And I really, really wanted one that was Miles Prower from Sonic the Hedgehog. So Tails. Tails' name is Miles Tails Prower, and that is who one of my dogs is named after. So I really wanted that Funko Pop. They were like the most rare one of the rare ones you could find. So I found it on eBay. I didn't know if it was real or not, but I paid like $300 for it.
Ooh.
Which is a lot because these Funkos are $10 to $15 a piece
when they first release. Yeah.
get released. And then so over the like maybe a year ago, I checked my Funko Pop app. My Tupac Shakur was worth like $200. My Miles Prower was like $200, and then all the other ones that I bought for $10 were like 15 to 20. So they all were worth more than I bought them for. I checked yesterday. No, the whole thing has dropped.
Yeah.
Nothing is worth anything anymore in that collection. And I never even kept the boxes, so it's not like I would have like really sold them anyway. But
so that made me think of, because I remember I got into Funko Pops, my little phase, later, and you had your Tupac. And I remember at that time seeing that one available for like a few $100. Excuse me. Several years later, they released a different
Tupac.
And I know they do that with J's, right?
Oh
like
my
the
God,
re-release.
yeah.
Tell me, how does that make you feel if you have the originals?
Coming from a sneaker collector, that's like, it can hurt. Like, I mean, it's like if you missed it the first time and you got the re-release 10 years later, that's awesome. But if you collected it and saved it for that long, it's definitely going to hurt the value. And then if you're doing it for that, then that can really.
And now yours is yellow and the new one is like white.
Yeah. Or you had something special and rare, and now it just doesn't feel rare anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like a very specific colorway of something. That's really painful. It hurts.
It's rough pain.
But that could happen.
Yeah.
And the market can be flooded. The market could collapse. Like sneaker markets collapsed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pogs, cards.
Now Pogs are going to come back one day.
yeah,
I'm going to have all of them. Slammers.
Bring back Pogs.
Bring back
we're gonna spark it
Pogs.
right
Start
here.
that campaign.
You heard it here first.
Hashtag.
I mean, fanny packs came back.
Fanny packs.
Did they even ever leave?
Who had a fanny pack collection? I need to hit them
I'm
up.
not saying, all right, not as a collection.
I need the neon.
Just as a
I need
trend?
the neon.
As a trend. I meant as a trend.
The nylon neon joint with the.
Yeah. A lot of things make their way back into pop culture. Because,
True.
little kids, what
That's very
do they play with out at recess?
They play
They
with
don't
Do
do
kids
marbles?
play? They play
Do
with their
they play?
phones.
marbles. Yeah,
No.
they don't. It's all
Marbles.
digital. It's all virtual.
Well, so let's talk about that. Digital collecting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Digital collecting.
Yeah.
Virtual collecting.
Oh my God.
You got stories, Alex.
I totally forgot about this. Like, I don't even know why I didn't think about this. Digital collectibles like NFTs now are a big thing. My buddy, this is a long story. I won't go into it, but my buddy told me about NFTs really early on, like years and years ago. And he was going to start an NFT and he wanted me to be a part of it. And I was like, dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Digital collectibles, like a JPEG. I don't want a GIF or a JPEG.
You can
or
just make a
GIF, or
copy.
whatever.
People can make copies.
Yeah, like that's not special to me. Like it's there's like inherently no, I don't know. I just don't feel like there's any value. But the NFT thing skyrocketed. He made an NFT. He asked me to be a partner on it. I declined, and he made like $3 million on an NFT project and retired. And he like moved to Taiwan where he can like save on taxes and stuff.
Man.
And I regretted that, but I did start my own NFT with him later, and it went fairly successful, but I just didn't find a lot of joy in it. Like I didn't have a lot of passion for it. So I don't know. I just feel, and then the NFT market obviously collapsed very recently, and like a lot of people spent millions of dollars on these NFTs, and they're worth like $10 now. So it's the same thing with like physical things. Like, did they find joy in it? Do they care about the money? A lot of people did it for investing and flipping. They failed. That hurts. But if there's like people that bought stuff that they just really thought was awesome and like a special art piece from a special artist and that made them happy, then that's cool.
You know what's funny is I bought your NFTs, a couple, because they're really cute. They're called Bitty Bots. They're cute.
Yeah, Bitty Bots.
I have a couple of them. And I don't really use them for anything. I think one of them was my Twitter picture for a while. But whenever I have to calculate my net worth, my lawyer was asking me to put like all my assets, anything I had. So I put NFTs on there. I just couldn't calculate what they're worth. I'm like $20, like something like that. But they're on there. They're on my list of assets because they're assets.
They are.
They could. Who knows? They might come back.
You never know.
Hey, hold on to everything. They might come back.
I know, like Michelle, my girlfriend. I gave her a few, and she sold them for like $120 and like made like some money on them. I was like,
cool,
right timing.
Damn. I was like, that's cool.
Dang, I should have sold mine.
That made me happy when that happened.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was a cool moment.
Well, all of these, it all goes back. I think we were talking about this before the episode of what makes something valuable, right? Like how does a community even come about for these various things like Funko Pops or sneakers or vintage tees? Like, how do those come about? Like, just a couple of enthusiasts starting the trend?
With a lot of things I collect, at least, well, obviously, like I think there's a, common denominator across a lot of collectibles. It's like scarcity.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like how rare is it? Like if there's only one of that thing, and there's enough interest, then it's going to keep going. Whoever's the highest bidder is going to drive the value up. But I think community is the biggest thing, and like hype, because community creates hype. So the more people that are interested in a topic and they're searching for a very particular thing, they're going to hype it up more.
Yeah.
That's going to drive the value up more, and that's going to grow the community more. And,
So
until people are on to the next thing.
Right. And then if it becomes oversaturated or too popular, too mainstream, there's a number of examples like this. It could collapse the whole market and value.
So from like an economic perspective, it would be considered like an inefficient market, right? So there's demand, something that has to be popular, but demand outpaces the supply of it. It's scarce, right? And there's this unique thing with a lot of really popular collectibles where there's an informational advantage or an access advantage. So there's some way to get more or get your hands on it or learn more about it or how it's used that not everyone is privy to. And because there's that gap in who knows and accesses what, that makes it inefficient. And so the people that have that access or that are knowledgeable are going to have an inherent advantage. And sometimes the access is just having more funds, right? Like I'm going to buy 1,000 trading card packs to get the ones that I want.
Yep.
But there's a big similarity and a parallel to investing. And in fact, a lot of these collectible markets are literally considered alternative investments. So like art is fully respected as an alternative investment. There are funds around art and that kind of thing. And so it's just interesting to see how that kind of hobby can turn into a financial tool.
Well, upside on collectibles or as alternative investments, obviously some of these markets are harder to predict, but they could withstand, certain economic times that other assets can't. So they could kind of be a hedge on some of your other investments.
Exactly. That's really like the key to alternative investments is that they have nothing to do with the stock market, right? So that goes down, you still have gold or you still have your jewelry or your art. The challenge is that they are fairly illiquid. So depending on what it is, it might be hard to translate that into cash or to do it quickly at value, right? Like if you needed to sell your t-shirt collection tomorrow, you probably have to take a big discount on the value of it to get rid of it.
Right.
Versus if you had 2 years to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true. Got to finding the right buyer.
Yeah.
Is important.
But over time, you know, if you can manage that correctly, it can really help like diversify your overall financial portfolio.
All right. 20 cents. 20 cents is the segment of the show where both Lizzy and myself, Lisa, each get 60 seconds to give our 2 cents on today's topic, whether it's a net positive or a net negative. Where does 20 cents come from?
Because you get the opinion of 2 dimes.
And today, you finally got it.
I'm slow.
So we don't.
This is our first live reaction.
We actually
good.
don't know
That's
if anyone
good.
knows what we're talking about when we say that. But
Well, hopefully they see my
millennials.
reaction and they figure it out.
It was funny.
well, today you also get the opinion of a special guest. So you get 3 opinions. Well, we'll start with Liz. You get 60 seconds on the clock.
Oh, I got
I
to
got
turn it
an
on.
official clock too. Oh my God, the pressure.
All right.
All right, 60 seconds on the clock. Is collecting stuff worth it?
All right. For me, I don't put a lot of financial investment into the collections I happen to have. I would say I have like maybe 10 to 12 small collections from like hundreds of dollars to a couple thousand. Some that are free, found objects. And it brings me joy. I don't invest a ton of time. It's kind of something that casually accumulates over time. And I also don't think mine tend to take up that much space. So I'm reaping a lot of the benefits without a lot of the costs. And I think there's a lot of room in life for things that bring you joy. So for me, net positive on collecting.
Net positive. I'm sure you're within 60 seconds.
All right.
Net positive.
We're going to give this to Lisa,
All
the
right.
normal timer operator.
The normal. All right. So for me, I get 1 minute on the clock for myself. All right. Let me think. Is collecting stuff worth it? I mean, every collection I have, now that I think about it, it has some personal, emotional meaning to me, to my friendships, my relationships. Like you said, like they represent a moment in time, something like ties me back to the past in a nostalgic, like happy way. So it's all good stuff. Similar to
Eternal
you,
thoughts.
I am net positive. Yeah, I think I wouldn't spend money for something that doesn't mean something to me. So in that sense, anything I collect will be
Worthwhile.
worthwhile.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Magic, you're up.
All right.
All right, 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah, 1
I
minute.
think just not bearing the lead, I'm net positive to an extent. If it doesn't dig into your personal finances and hurt your ability to pay bills and cover any, emergency expenses, then I'm all for it. If it brings joy into your life, it doesn't take up too much space and hurt the people around you.
Yeah.
It doesn't take up too much time and affect personal relationships, which I've definitely had that problem in the past as like a minor form of addiction to collecting. And if those things don't happen, then I'm all for it. If it brings you a lot of joy, it ties you to community. And the bonus is maybe if it appreciates in value and you can like sell it one day and make money on it, like as an alternative form of investing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a net positive with collecting, and I'm not going to stop collecting anytime soon.
Anytime soon?
You get 3 net positives from 3 millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lizzy, go ahead and disagree,
the goats
y'all.
of
Go ahead.
collecting, millennials.
Well, remember, this is what we think right now at this moment in time. Who knows? That could change in the future. Right now, all 3 of us are net positive on collecting stuff. So what do you think? Is collecting stuff worth it?
Hit us up. Let us know what you think. DM us on Instagram at NetNetPodcast or email us at hi@netnetpodcast.com. And if you want to follow us individually, here's where you can find us.
I'm at Wealth for Women of Color on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram.
I'm at live_well_Lizzy on Instagram and TikTok. And Alex?
You can find my vintage account at Hangtime Vintage on Instagram. Hit me up.
All references, statistics, and resources mentioned can be found in our show notes. This podcast is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be constituted as financial advice. Remember to always do your own research, consult a professional as needed, and feel empowered to make your own damn decisions.